something that comes out of a farm or a mine. It's an abstract legal power. And that means that in itself, it's a power, but not a tangible good. He distinguished between money and wealth by doing that. Now, the way the money system has been mishandled and miscontrolled all the way back to Aristotle comes down to, as I mentioned, it's a question of language and definitions, and especially wrong definitions. If you define money as wealth, for example, okay, as for either perhaps gold, perhaps silver, you define money as wealth, who have you handed the control of the money system over to?
The wealthy families.
Those with the wealth.
Yes.
They will control not only their own assets and their own stuff, their own tangible wealth, they'll control the system, which belongs in the hands of society. So this is one of the key problems that afflicted us for a long time when gold was considered to be wealth and or money. Gold was wealth, but it was considered to be money, and that was a mistake. There's another mistake that was then made, and this came about largely with the establishment of the Federal Reserve System. You see, money had always been credit as well. Going back to the Babylonian times, credit functioned in a way like money. And with the introduction of the Federal Reserve System, credit was again considered to be money. Now, who would that hand the money power over to? If you made credit money, the money
the banking system. The banking system.
You handed it to the banking system. Exactly. Look what they've done with it. One crisis after another. Now, mankind has advanced in any case because there are so many millions, billions of people working, creating values for life in a fairly inefficient way compared to what could be done. And the bankers have been in control. Now, what came into existence in ancient Greece for a time was Aristotle's system, money as a creature of the law, where the government determined what the money was. Now, Aristotle uses a term that's very instructive on this. His term for money, and the word for money at that time, was nomos, N-O-M-O-S, Greek word, which refers to either law or binding custom. The term for money, the term for law was nomos. The term for money was nomisma. And that showed the connection. The Aristotelian term for money is nomisma, based on the term for the law, which was nomos. And so what you had at that time was a situation where the city-states created the money. They created the nomisma. And there was a battle going on between the city-states and the oligarchy of the city-states, the old aristocracy or whatever you want. Oligarchy, I think, is a better word. And they preferred to use relationships between the wealthy. I gave this to you, you now owe me that, a kind of credit. And so there was a battle over this. And the nomisma was ultimately would be suppressed. The society would degenerate into corruption. A new society, Rome, let's say, would pick up the idea either by reading Aristotle or discovering it again, and they create a money system based on nomisma, which the Romans did as well and used for hundreds of years successfully. It got destroyed under the Punic Wars, and they reverted to a commodity form of money, first silver and then ultimately to gold. And there's been a misreading of this in history, which I discussed in chapter 2 and 3 of my book, how the British numismatists considered it an advance when Rome shifted to using gold for money, whereas actually it was a deterioration of a legally based money system. But the Brits liked it because they were using gold for money, and they thought that was an advance. Anyway, we clear up this conception in my book, in the early part of my book, and then look at the various examples of real numisma developing in history, and America was built on it.
So was money a contract in this context then?
A contract? No, I wouldn't say it's a contract. Money, we've lost the concept of money. Okay, we've lost it. Thanks largely to the economists who always think money is credit, and they will go so far as to say all money is credit. Now, it's really a short-sighted viewpoint, because within our present Federal Reserve system, the money is credit. But these guys can't conceive and don't know the history of how money doesn't have to be credit. Money can be money. See, a promise to pay something, can never really be money, because what is being promised, that's got to be the money. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, but the economists don't. They don't understand this. And so in our chapter 24, the first 23 chapters of the book are historical case studies which enable the reader at their own pace to really understand what money is. Now, in chapter 24, then, here's what we do. We've got the 23 chapters of background. We understand the nature of money, and I can read to you, if you like, the conclusion on page 657. It takes us 657 pages to define money, okay? And
yeah.
Anyway, then chapter 24, I wrote it on the basis, okay, that's what we learned about money. What does that mean we have to do now to fix the present system? And that's what chapter 24 does. And it presents the three crucial elements, the three absolutely necessary elements without which you don't have reform and with which you can get reform. And I can tell you what they are very quickly.
Please do.
In our present system, you must nationalize the Federal Reserve. Now, people have told me, don't use the word nationalize, you'll scare Americans. Americans don't have to be afraid of words so much, you know. If you don't like the word nationalize, then just say we incorporate the Federal Reserve into the U.S. Treasury, where all new money is created not privately, but by the Treasury.
But to you, is the Treasury transparent to us?
Yeah, the Treasury should be much more transparent, and that's a part of the proposal, of course.
Because I think in its current function, it's definitely not. In its current function, the Treasury is just as complicitly doing the wrong thing as the Fed.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a real problem, and that has to be corrected. A number of things have to be done to correct this situation. It's been centuries building, and it's going to be a little bit of time, not that long, in fixing it. So the point one, put the money power into the government where it belongs, where the Congress, where the Constitution places it, by the way, where most people think it is now. So this is not really radical. People think that the government controls the money system now. It doesn't. Okay, that's the first step. Now, if you just did that, it's not enough, and I'll explain to you later why it's not enough if you want to ask that.
I want you to go through all three, and then I want to come back for each one because I have a question. But go ahead.
That's what I thought. So that's the first step. And all these things could be described in many more words, all the subsidiary parts of it. You know, second step, you must remove the power of the banks to create what we use for money. And what we're using is their credit that they extend when they make loans. You have to stop the banks from creating money. And one way of saying that people will understand is you end the fractional reserve system, because that's really the mechanism under which it happens. Now, exactly how that works is more complicated and so on, but that's number two. You no longer have the banks able to have their credit, which they put into the accounts, act as